Wolves are in it.
Yeah.
Wolves are in the Premier League this year, right? There's a
Oh,
Wolves.
do you know what? Do you know what? I'm gonna get Bournemouth and Brentford mixed up again.
Oh, for fuck's
That was probably a given. No, you have a Wolves, you have no Watford, and you have no West Brom. Okay.
Yeah.
No Watford.
No Watford. No.
Aw.
Shocking. I think I did see a crazy stat that apparently Watford versus West Brom in the Championship was the first time they've ever met in 10 years because they're both yo-yo clubs. That's pretty ludicrous. But yeah, so while we are here and recording, the first match day is officially kicked off with Friday Night Football.
And we're happy.
Yes, you can tell when Arsenal win because this podcast is going down like a lead fucking balloon. So it seemed like the right time to get some league predictions from my people here on the Liquid Football Podcast. So we are going to start constructing our own league table. So this is where it gets interesting. This is where we get all of our hot takes. This is where we get all of our dislikes from people who just can't deal with the fact that they're going to get relegated this year. So with that in mind, we're going to start off at the bottom of the table. So as we mentioned, as I'm filling for time here, as everyone else frantically writes down their tables.
We I've got to mute my microphone while I hit the typing.
Yes.
Stupid green keys.
So while everyone's doing that, obviously we have 3 new teams entering the league this year, namely Bournemouth and Fulham, who are no strangers to the Premier League, and Nottingham Forest, who are no strangers to European success, let's be fair. But it's been a while since they've been in the top league because of various calamities at a corporate level. But weirdly enough, and again, we'll do a proper transfer window review at some stage in this podcast. But at the moment, all 3 teams have taken very different approaches to this, where Fulham normally are the ones that buy in bulk and essentially stockpile good players, and they all turn out to be terrible, and they all end up being sold off to Hull 2 years down the road. Whereas this year, they haven't quite done that. They basically kind of trying to keep firm because they have a stadium rebuild going on, so they're not really spending that much on it. They got the tempo there in certain places, but they're not doing crazy amounts of money. Kind of in the middle, let's say. Bournemouth has spent no money. They are keeping the same squad. Scott Parker likes who he has. He's only signing people on frees, on very decent deals, let's say, rather than anything else. Whereas Nottingham Forest have bought 13 players so far as of time of recording. And if they get the 14th over the line, they're going to be able to announce Jiz Hornkamp as one of their players, which I think is absolutely wonderful. I thank Nottingham Forest for giving us this meme content early.
Actually, to be honest with you, it'll almost be 15, but Wolves have literally today rejected their £35 million offer for Gibbs White,
which is insane. The amount
that's fucking ludicrous.
It is completely ludicrous. It's 100% daft. But this is what we're here to discuss. We're here to see if these promoted teams are going to get anywhere in the league, and of course, who do we think is going to make it to Europe, and who do we think is going to be champions, and any other shocks along the way. So, who would like to offer up their relegated teams first?
I think you should take it.
I will take it.
I'm not there yet.
Very well. Right, then I shall go first then. So, personally, I think bottom of the table.
Oh shit, West Ham, forgot them.
Yeah, they do
Wolves
start with
West Ham.
So I'm going to go for Bournemouth as bottom of the table this year. Again, nothing on Scott Parker. I just think the team is just not good enough to be Premier League standard. I want to be proven wrong because there's ex-Liverpool people in there, but I saw the likes of Solanke and Brooks Lewis Cook last time they were here, and they just weren't up to scratch at all. They were dreadful, completely at sea, and I just think it's going to go badly for them this year. Fulham I have in as well because it's Fulham. This is what happens. And again, no slight in the team. I think it's a much better squad than Bournemouth, but I have absolutely no faith in Marco Silva as a manager. I think he is woefully overrated in the grand scheme of things because he inherited he did well with what he had with Hull. Then he bluffed his way through Watford, and then he bluffed his way through Everton, and then he somehow in a job again at Fulham. I don't understand. And plus he can't set up a defence to save his life. I understand this is now coming out on Saturday where he probably could have given a clean sheet against Liverpool, but that's the nature of the game. Now, I do have a few shocks on my league table, and this is the first one. Everton are going down.
Holy shit.
Now, again, this is a very very biased view. I understand, but I do believe there is credence to this. Mainly because like last season wasn't the blip, and that is truthful. They are in dire financial straits. They are spending well beyond their means. They still are, considering they're trying to sign 4 players this weekend, which is ridiculous. But they're also buying players where they have cover. Weirdly enough, like they're buying defenders when they have defenders, and they're buying midfielders when they have plenty of midfielders. But you suddenly have one recognized striker when Calvert-Lewin doesn't have a knee that blows up in every 5 seconds.
And they can't even play him in the next game because
You
he
can't even
got
play him
sent
against Chelsea.
off. He got
Yeah.
sent off at the end of last season, so he's suspended now for their next game. So
Yeah,
they
so
actually
they-
are
so-
going into their next game against first game is against
Chelsea.
Chelsea without a single recognized striker.
Yeah, they're actually going to play Dele Alli as a number 9, which I think is hilarious. Dele Alli doesn't play full stop. So, but no, in fairness, like this is just, I do really think that the Everton are in trouble. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm looking at the rest of their would be like rivals in the mid-table and so forth. I'm just seeing, okay, they're nowhere near competing with the likes of West Ham's and so forth. They're not on that level anymore. They've lost that completely. But also that even the teams that are below them have improved. They are getting better players in, whereas Everton are trying to snipe deals. They're trying to get stuff across the line. Like I don't know
Basically
how long
doing what Chelsea are doing.
a little bit,
Chelsea have more money.
Yeah. But again, this is not Everton's money to spend, so I don't know where it's coming from. Especially considering like, okay, the Richarlison deal, absolutely, but that was to balance the books. That was to stop the club winding down. Let alone
Wasn't something like the fee they got for Richarlison would only keep the club's wages going for like 3.5 months.
Essentially, the way it was working was they needed, like at that moment in time, they had to sell somebody for a certain amount of price, or else they were going to be violating FFP. So they're literally on the bubble where they are tipping over to FFP. So now they're starting to say, okay, we'll sign Andre Onana for 35 million. Hello, where's the fucking pitfall now? But of course, they've got away with it now because of new season regulations type of stuff. They're using COVID as an excuse as well, which is fair. But no, like truthfully, going into a season not expecting competition for Calvert-Lewin and expecting Salomon Rondon to lead the line for the entire year is lunacy. And expecting Calvert-Lewin to stay fit for the season is also lunacy, considering hasn't even started yet and he's already out for 6 weeks. So I don't see it going well for Everton whatsoever. I think the collective delusion that is there with the Evertonian fans, it worked last season. They got away with it, but they literally did just get away with it because Burnley were worse. It's not gonna work this time because I think there's just too many better clubs out there at the moment than Everton.
Yeah, funnily enough, I actually think they're going to go down as well because I think I have them as 18th as well because the team that survived, just purely off the back of the team that survived last season, was stronger than the team they've got now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree because of Richarlison. Richarlison made them survive, and they've sold them for 60 million and haven't replaced them. And I'm not being sugarcoated here. Dwight McNeil is not a replacement for Richarlison. He's barely a replacement for fucking Idrissa Gueye, who are re-signing anyway. So like, what are you doing here?
I'm also going to have Everton in 18th, by the way.
Ooh, okay. So what that is fascinating. We're all
Actually,
going for
here. Do you want to make a fourth column there, and I'll put in like the Guardian fucking. The Guardian ones, because they have Everton somehow finishing 14th.
I'll tell you what, Neil. Right? What we do is
I think that's fucking lunacy.
When we put a team down, we'll add what the journals think happened as well.
Yeah, the journals. Yeah, fuck the journals.
So Everton are 14th, right? I do believe they had Fulham and Bournemouth relegated anyway, so that does check out. But Neil will incorporate that when we have it. So what's the rest of your relegated teams?
I had Bournemouth, right?
Yeah.
I had Bournemouth in 19th.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, right? Who do I think? I think Notts Forest will go straight back down.
Yeah.
I had them bottom. Just don't think it'll work out. I think they've bought too much in. By the time it gels, they're gonna be fucking trying to push a pea up like a mountain with their nose. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is always the risk, isn't it? And Burtbot, to finish off the relegation zone, where do you have as your bottom three?
Everton 18th, Brentford 19th.
Ooh, okay. Second
And
season. You reckon?
I'm banking on the second season syndrome. And Bournemouth 20th.
Fair enough. So we've all agreed at least that Bournemouth is going down, right? So that's fair.
I just haven't seen them do anything that's gonna. I don't know. I don't think they have the strength and depth.
Yeah, that's my thought as well, because they also release a lot of experienced players. Like they had Gary Cahill on the books. They don't seem to be re-signing Nat Phillips. That's a big hole in their defense already. And they probably will sign Nat Phillips, in fairness. It's just that we're holding off until our players are back fit. So but either way, okay, so Bournemouth are definitely going down, Neil. Where do the journals think Bournemouth are going to finish?
Bournemouth.
Because we have them all signed here.
Oh no, their writers' predicted position is 20th.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. Right then. So that settles Bournemouth then, because the journals are always right after all.
Interestingly enough, they have Brentford finishing 13. No, their predicted position is 16th.
For Brentford, okay.
Yeah, which is just a place above where I have them finishing. I have them in 17th.
Okay, so let's work on the bottom half of the table then. So Neil, if you're going up the way, then let's go say from 11th, from 17th to 11th. What is your league table looking like?
Well, 17th is Brentford.
Yeah.
Fulham. What else will I have? I fucking clicked off of it. Well done, Neil. Leeds.
Or at least let's go who you think is in this. Who's in the relegation scrap for you? Let's say.
Oh no, I think all of these are. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be like last season. I think it's going to be like a relegation scrap until like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Does nobody want to stay in the Premier League?
Exactly.
Premiership.
15th is Leeds. Sorry, Leeds. 14th, I have Leicester. I think they're going to fucking tank, baby. 13th, I have Newcastle.
Okay. Home position.
12th, I have Southampton.
Okay.
And 11th, I have Villa.
Aston Villa. Okay, so that's the bottom half of the table there. Again, quite. You mentioned Leicester City there, and that is going to feature in my part of the table here as well. But to hone in on that point, I suppose, like again, there seems to be something weird at Leicester. Like they just kind of like, I think it's like Kasper Schmeichel kind of snuck out at like midnight to join Nice, and like no one seems to be replacing him, which is very strange. Very
they've not
strange.
noticed that he's gone, like he's ghosted them.
Yeah, maybe
like he's just fucked off to France and changed his phone number, and they're like, somebody text Casper again. He's not showing up. His car's still here. You know,
they left him on. He left him on scent. That's really awkward. Burkbot, how is your bottom table looking?
Similar enough. I'll go from 12th down. Just to make things easier for you.
Work away,
Okay, so 12th,
don't
I
make
have
it
Palace.
easy on him.
So you have Palace 12th, okay.
Brighton. They're losing a lot of players. Southampton. They lost strong. They're fucked.
Yeah.
Leeds. Notts Forest in 16th and Fulham in 17th.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, obviously we can get from the drop zone. You think that 2 promoted sides are going to survive?
I think Leno is going to save Fulham.
Okay.
And I think Notts Forest are just doing enough business that they have game changers on their bench, or game state managers on their bench. They're just that's my thought process on it.
Actually quite similar to my thought process, and not having Fulham go straight back down. I think Leno and the imperious might of Shane Duffy.
Two smart signings, I have to say.
Yeah, 2 good signings.
Like the Duffy one is weird. Like he's on a loan in the last year of his contract. That's why you use up a loan. Whatever. Fuck. Any case,
it's Fulham. They don't make sense.
It's whatever. I think those 2 will help them. Really, really help them. They're shoring up at the back, which is always a good plan for a newly promoted team. Yeah.
And do you have a shout for 11th Burkbot at the moment? Who do you think top? Who do you think is top at the bottom?
Leicester.
Leicester. Okay, right then. Now I'm going to shock you all by saying that Bertbot, you are currently the most optimistic when it comes to Leicester.
Oh shit!
Because I think Leicester are just about going to survive.
Oh, big call.
Big call. I'm even going to say more. I'm going to say that Brendan Rodgers is the first to lose his job this season.
Ooh.
Now,
you think he's going to survive Lampard?
I can already.
Funnily enough, I was about to say, I was like, if we're doing first manager get sacked, Lamps is my fucking man.
Yeah,
Lamps and Rodgers would be my top two anyway.
I think Everton will do what they do with Rafa and give until Christmas, but I think there's something in the waters at Leicester that's not right. Just there's certain noises and there's certain things happening that I just find are very strange, and they're very reminiscent of how Rodgers' last season at Liverpool ended, where it's like the last throw of the dice. He's trying to make signings that are going to suit the team or whatever way you want to work it, and they just don't. Their gambles all fail. But the weird thing here is it's the same, but no new signings. And it's very, very clear that whatever happens in Leicester, there's a lot of players that are looking to leave. I mean, Wesley Fofana seems to be like outright like trying to leave for Chelsea, and he's being blocked. James Maddison is getting like hounded by Newcastle for transfers. Yuri Tielemans, I'm sure when Lucas Torreira is sold, will be an Arsenal player. And shockingly enough as well, another one I found very peculiar, they didn't keep Ademola Lookman, who I thought was a perfect fit in that Leicester team.
It's a great fit for them, yeah.
And they didn't take the option, which I found was very, very strange. And then even players he signed last year, like Yannick Vestergaard, who just was woeful, to be honest. I think Southampton were delighted to get rid of him. And then Boubacar Soumaré, who was part of the Ligue 1 winning Lille side, was terrible. He was an atrocious addition to the midfield. He just didn't fit at all. They spent 40 million on him. You know, I don't think they're in the market for players. I think even Roger said in the press conference that like they just are not signing players, which is so strange because like they only have like a one like proper goalkeeper in Danny Ward and Daniel Iverson, who is the reserve. You need to sign. Yeah, you need to sign people. Like you can't just expect like, okay, Casper Michael's gone, Stella V. Like, you know, no, you need to actually sign a senior goalkeeper. This is important, you know. But there's something in the water. I think they are going to have a very, very bad season, and to the extent where they have to let go of Rodgers and they have to bring in someone new, and whoever that someone new is could be someone we know, someone we don't know, but they need to stop the rot because there is very clearly a rot at the Leicester City team somewhere. Vardy's getting on as well, and he's not
bringing in somebody new. If they bring in somebody new in place of Rodgers and back him to the extent that they are with Rodgers, which is not at all,
yes,
that's not going to stop any rot.
No, this is very true. This is very, very true.
I think the rot only kind of, it doesn't start at Rodgers. It starts higher up above. It starts from him being told you have to sell players before you can buy anyone.
Yeah,
you know,
and they have a lot of dead weight. In fairness, they have a lot of dead weight. A lot of players that are very average, and that's by design. Like their recruitment hasn't been as good as you remember. You know, you remember them selling Harry Maguire for stupid money, and likewise. But they have also signed the likes of Napoleon Mendy, who was meant to be the Kante replacement. He's still there at the club. Was not the Kante replacement as forecasted. Even someone like Patton Daka, who I was ranting over, he's a specimen. He's brilliant. He has not been the player I was hoping he'd be, to be honest. But that could be down to him playing second fiddle or third fiddle to Iheanacho and Vardy. I don't know. There's just something wrong there in the Leicester camp, and I think it's gonna bite him in the arse this year. I also have Nottingham Forest down to survive. I have a lot of faith in Steve Cooper. I think he's a phenomenal coach, and if anyone is going to make sense of 14 to 15 new players, I think it'll be him. It also helps that he does have one or two good players he's kept from last season, mainly Brennan Johnson, who I think is going to be very good. And I also have slight hopes for Taiwo Awoniyi, who was on the Liverpool books for a very, very long time, but kind of made a stamp in the Bundesliga with Berlin. So hopefully that'll work out for him. I have Brentford surviving as well. Again, I think second syndrome's kicking in here, but I kept them up because they're bringing in Mikael Damsgaard, who was brilliant.
Yeah.
Last time he was playing for Denmark, he is sensational. Like they wanted a Christian Eriksen replacement. They literally got the kid who replaced Eriksen after his heart attack. Like that's perfect. I can't fault them for that. I also have faith in Leeds to survive and survive well this year. They're signing a lot of blue chip players, and if any of them light up, then Leeds are sorted, and they've got a bit of a moneyball operation going on there. I think Wolves are going to decline. Again, same kind of thing I have about Leicester. Really, like they were on the bit of the cusp with the goal difference last year, and I think it's going to bite them on the arse. Brighton 12. I think Southampton are going to have a good season. And again, to blow our own trumpets, I think it'll be because of Gavin Bazunu. I think it'd be that kind of that class of players coming in that are going to do well. Bazunu first, Bella Kotchamp, Romeo Lavia. I think they're all going to do really well because they're all very Southampton players, as in ones that can cash in for like stupid amounts of money in 2 years' time. So they're getting back to the Southampton that we know and love, lads. Or at least I do anyway. So Verpod, take us through to the next part of the league. So who's missing out Europe for you here? 10 to 8.
10 to 8. I have in 10th Manchester United.
Oh, the hot take has begun. Right, we'll get back to that. Who's 9th for you? Who's beating United this season?
Villa.
Aston Villa. Oh, yes. Okay. Right. I'm here for this. And 8th place?
Wolves.
Yeah. Wait, that's interesting. Okay. So I value your opinion here. How bad do you think Man United are going to be this season that they'll be 10th?
The thing is, right, Ronaldo dragged those sons of bitches up through that league last year. And now he doesn't want to do that anymore. So if he does like one of his walkouts again, and I can't imagine Ten Hag putting up with his nonsense. Or like at least the media will have any interviews or any articles I've read about Ten Hag is that like everyone fucking adores him, and he's not going to put up with that shit. Yet he seems to be putting up with that shit. But look, I don't know. Either Ronaldo goes off the boil or he'll do one of his single-handedly dragging that team up the table. But I honestly think there's so much toxic dead wood in there that I think they're going to struggle for top of the table, or like as in like top half. Villa, they've got some good players and they've got some exciting players. I don't know, they're just a weird team. I think they're just going to be a bit too unpredictable. And similarly with Wolves, anytime I watched Wolves last year, obviously with Arsenal would be when I mostly watched them, they caused us pain and misery. So therefore they must be somewhat doing that to other teams. So that's why I have them in 8th.
Fair enough. Okay. I'll throw mine 2 cents here as well then. So I think just missing out then will be, I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna say Newcastle's gonna finish 10th. This is on the presumption that they are gonna sign some more marquee players, but I think Eddie Howe just has them playing really well anyway. So like going even by form from last season, I think they'll do fairly well.
And he signed a new deal.
He signed a new deal as well, yeah. So I think that sorts it. I think Palace are gonna make the top 10 this year as well. I don't know what it is about this Palace side. I just really like the way I like their mojo. I like the way they play. And I think
Vieira.
Yeah, it's Vieira ball is running wild, and it's not even that. Like I think if they get that replacement for Conor Gallagher, I think that's what makes them a top 10 side. They just need to find that guy who's gonna play that role. Yeah, they probably do have one internally. But
they had Doucouré there trying it today, and he went down with cramp on the 75th minute.
Yeah.
And for the most part, he's actually quite a decent enough player. But yeah,
I think he's very, very good game.
Off the basis, I actually fully agree. I think they'll make top of the table, top end of the table.
Top 10. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, top 10. Yeah.
And just missing out in Europe, I'm going to say Villa. Much on your point, Bert, but I think Villa have good players in that squad, and if it all clicks, it clicks. The one thing I find very interesting is that they changed their captain over to John McGinn, which is a very strange switch, but I think it's also an indication that Gerrard doesn't really fancy Tyrone Mings as much as many people do. Mainly because, like, I know that Callum Chambers was playing a lot more towards the end of the season, so I think he prefers Chambers and Konza to Mings, but I could be just reading too much into things there. But yeah, I think they're gonna probably get their shit together and start challenging for Europe next year. I think, especially with Coutinho there. If he stays fit and he's playing in goals and assists, they are fucking flying. Neil, finish off this set then of the 10 to 8s.
Yeah, I have from 10 to 8. I have Brighton Palace Wolves.
Brighton, Crystal Palace Wolves. A good year for the M23 derby apparently. So yeah, good stuff there. Brighton. So
I like Brighton. I genuinely think they'll. Yeah, it's one position lower than what they finished last season, but I like basically. Fuck it, I just really like Potter. I think he's a good guy. People are saying, well, they've lost Basuma, they've lost Cucurella. Well, they've only just recently lost Cucurella, so you can't really judge them on that. And then Moise Caicedo, who they signed for 10 bob and a pickled egg, they've already made replacement for Basuma. And you know, I don't put it past Potter to find a good replacement for Cucurella with 65 fucking million pounds.
Yeah, they'll be covered. They'll find somebody. It'll be fine.
They're going to be good. That money's going to go into a very, very good replacement for Cucurella, and it's almost certainly they're all going to be South American because they're getting seriously brilliant South American players.
To make that point, because they brought in a Paraguayan kid called Julio Enciso, who is highly tipped, and he's only 19, so he might actually start for Brighton over ahead of Malpe and Welbeck.
Yeah. 18-year-old Paraguayan forward. Also the most Argentine sounding player on the planet in Alexis McAllister.
Yeah, great player. Always raise him.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the reason why I have Brighton higher than everybody else. It's purely off the strength of Potter. I think Potter's good.
Yeah,
Potter
that's fair.
The man.
Very well. Right, and I shall start off then when it comes to the Europa and Conference League spots. So I think West Ham have hit their ceiling with 7th for the moment. Again, it's a bit of a conservative attempt because I do reckon Man United will be 6th. I don't think the revolution is happening this year. I think it's more of a case of the club needs to decide who's actually in charge. Is it Ronaldo or is it Ten Hag? And then just pick a fucking side. And I think that's going to be the saga all year. But what is going to shock people is 5th place. I have Chelsea.
What'll shock you even more? I have them finished in 6th.
Okay, you have them in 6th. Well then, Neil, you give your shouts here then, and we'll discuss them.
I have Man U finishing 7th, and I have Chelsea finishing 6th.
Right then, okay. And do you have West Ham in 5th then?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you have a bit of a permutation here.
I think Moyes. I just think Moyes isn't going to do the top 4, but I think he's gonna. West Ham are really coming on strong. I think they're really good. Yeah. I'm in fear of West Ham.
That's very interesting. Burkbot, you have in the past been pessimistic about Arsenal's chances. You've just seen them win 2-0 tonight. Can we sway you into a top 4 finish?
This was my thoughts before tonight's match.
Okay.
I'll go with what 7th upwards, is it? 7th to 4th?
Yeah, just stop before the Champions League. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. 7th, I have Newcastle.
Interesting. Okay.
6th, I have West Ham. And 5th, I have Chelsea.
Right. Okay. So you are going for top 4 finishes this year. I do find it very interesting that we've all gone for Chelsea to finish outside the top 4. Maybe we can kind of discuss that. I feel now, granted, this is before they sign Cucurella, and they will no doubt sign a few bigger players in that time. I just find the Chelsea team very, very defensive at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, they could very well win something because of a very defensive side. But I think when it comes down to it, when they are going up against top 4 rivals, I think they're outgunned at the moment. If they get someone big in, I mean, we've heard links to Aubameyang, which would be like Adebayor-ish vibes of that one. But I don't think that'll happen. Sterling, I'm not sold by as the front runner, really. If he's playing like Havertz, yeah, fair enough. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to lead the line as well as the journos hope, personally. But he's a better fit than Lukaku. So
here's a funny thing. I have a slightly opposite take to you. I think defensively they're quite suspect. I think the loss of Christensen is a fucking disaster for them because he was meant to be the future of that back line.
You
know?
Very true, yeah.
You can say about Rudiger, Rudiger is, for now, at the time when the two of them left, Rudiger was the better defender. But he's into his 30s. I think he was asking for something like, what, 220 grand a week? Or something like, he was asking for like nearly £250,000 a week. So they kind of made a real decision going, well, we're not going to pay this. We're not going to pay somebody who's 30. Maybe if he was like at least 27 or something like that, we might go, yeah. So because he's still got some resale value, but we're not giving that kind of money to somebody with no resale value. But I think that they were to put all the eggs in Christensen's basket, only for him to leave the basket outside an orphanage and go, nah, I'm out, you know? And so I think the loss of Christensen is the real disaster there, you know? Yeah, they got Azpilicueta back for 2 years, but seriously, if you'd have asked them, who would you rather have kept out of Rudiger, Christensen, or Azpilicueta? Poor old Dave's at the bottom of that fucking list.
Yeah, it's third choice, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, they say, oh, well, they've got Chilwell back from a long-term injury. That's great, but he's not really a defensively minded player. He might help.
Yeah, he will be the wing back. Like he's not center back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think attack minded wise, I think they're kind of not okay. Yeah, they're quite a little outgunned by the rest of the other teams around them. But a left side of, you know, Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell legging it at people, that's pretty good. You know, that's a lot of pace and an incredible amount of talent. But yeah, I think Tad Bowley is he's really just copying everybody else's notes in class on signings.
Yeah,
that's good. There's no, like, when you run into a transfer window with no plan and just start slanging money around, that it never ends well. There's no case ever where it's ever ended well. Even when City started their buy everything project, and actually, funnily enough, you go back to the early days of Chelsea 20 years ago when the club was first formed. You go back to their first, the Abramovich areas, they were just slanging money around. There was no thought, there was no rhyme or reason to it, and it never worked. It never ever worked. They tried it season after season after season, and it never worked. And they're trying it again now because last season they had quite possibly one of the most disastrous transfer windows I have ever seen. To the point where they sacked quotation marks, made leave the two people who were responsible for it, Czech and Granovskaya. They made them leave because they were just like, yeah, they signed £100 million turkey and loaned them back for 8.
Can I just say there is a point where the Chelsea transfer strategy, if you can call it that, has worked, and that's with the women's team. Just caveat there.
Yeah,
like they really kicked that into gear this season, haven't they?
Yeah,
bastards. Any case,
yes. Now let's talk about the top 4. So, Neil, from 4th to 1st. So you're going Spurs 4th.
Yep.
Okay, and 3rd place for you.
Spuds. You spelled it wrong. It's no T.
Right, fine.
No.
So
please star out some of those middle letters, you fuck. All right. Yes, there we go. That's much better. 3rd, I have Arsenal.
You have Arsenal 3rd. Okay, interesting. And then your top 2.
And sorry for you, man. I have Liverpool finishing 2nd. I have City finishing 1st.
Fair enough. I will throw my 2 cents in here as well. Then not much change.
Before you do, I have the exact same as Neil.
You have the exact same. Okay, right. So you're
same, yeah.
Okay. Grand, I'll put them in there. And again, I'm not, like, as is evident, not much massive change for me on this one. I do believe Man City will win. I think we will be a very close 2nd. It's going to be a very similar season to last year, to be honest. I think the only difference I have here is that I think Spurs are a very comfortable 3rd behind you guys, or ahead of you guys rather. Like again, I'm being a bit conservative here with this. The World Cup is going to fuck everyone up, I think, especially in the top teams. it could literally go down to like who is not traveling to Qatar in terms of who's winning the Premier League. So I'm being a conservative. I do think if we are going to win, it could be this year because we'll take advantage of that disruption. But sure, Haaland isn't going to the World Cup anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. The one thing I would say is that Man City is that a lot of attention is being focused on Haaland being the star signing, when really everyone should be looking at Julian Alvarez, because I think he's the real star turn. No one is paying attention to him. No one's paying, I'm being genuinely serious here.
That's quite an expensive misdirection. They're paying Haaland maybe £2 million a month.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. It's not deliberate. Like everyone's gonna be terrified of Haaland on a defensive point of view. They're all gonna be marketing. But Julian Alvarez was good enough that they can sell Sterling off to a league rival. So
I think with the losses of like Jesus and Sterling, like I think with Sterling, like he's kind of fed up. He's been at City for 7 fucking years and he's still not first choice in any position. Like, I think he's like, all right then. And when he's seen the new signings of like Haaland and Alvarez as well, I reckon Alvarez was going to come straight into the team regardless of whether or not Sterling was there or not. And he made
I would agree with that. Yeah,
he made a conscious decision to go, right, I'm going to be top dog somewhere else. And I think the main portion of his discussion with Todd Bowley was, am I your main man? Like, I like if I'm fit, I want to be on the team sheet. Like, unless I got a broken leg, like I want to be on that fucking team sheet. And they're going, yeah, sure, why not? So I think that was the main thing. So I think he's gone for his top dog, credentials elsewhere. I think Jesus is the exact same. Plus Jesus internationally has quite possibly the most high pressure position in world football, which is centre forward for Brazil. So he's like, no, I need to play week in, week out. I can't be doing this Pep in out turner all about shit.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. And like I said, we've all taken different degrees of confidence on Arsenal making the top 4. A lot of it, like admittedly, my kind of choice has a lot to do with Chelsea potentially declining and Man United not being ready yet. But I think Arsenal, like, I think the Jesus signing is going to work out very well for you because you've missed a dynamic striker like that. It's just a matter of keeping him fit because he hasn't had the best records in that sense. I think the Zinchenko deal is a lot more impressive in that sense because you don't need to have him as left back. You can have him working in that midfield where he is far better. He is far better in midfield than he is left back, and he's a pretty decent left back as it is. So that's already saying something about him. As regards Spurs, like I do have them third, and quite honestly, like this is going to sound very strange, but this is their title challenge this year. I honestly, like legit, like all the stars have to align for Spurs here. The 2 teams ahead of them will have to have injury crises, World Cup shenanigans, all that sort of stuff. Like Conte, like is not going to stick around long in this Spurs team. They are either challenging for the title this season or not. That is literally, if you pardon the pun, all or nothing when it comes to Spurs. Because they've spent so much money and they're bringing in so many people. Again, Basuma, a great signing. Richarlison, I think, is a fucking hilariously bad signing, but that's beside my point. But Perisic coming in. Jed Spence, who I think is a low-key very good signing for Spurs and a very Conte signing as well. These are good players that they're bringing in to replace really ailing players. This has to be their challenge. And like ultimately, they're still finishing third. And I think well behind Man City and Liverpool, who are just going to be setting stupid amount of pace this year. Like it is going to be the same as last year. They're going to be targeting nearly 100 points this year between the two of them. It'll take a bit of time for Nunes to get settled in at Liverpool, but going by the Community Shield, like the guy's already taking names for centre backs. So it's going to be a good one. Either way, these two guys are going to wreck the rest of the league, and it's just up to the actual matches they have themselves, really, about who wins. So that's our particular league tables. Neil, I hope you've been on Journal Watch because I want to ask you to fill in the blanks here and who the real experts think are going to finish top spots.
All right. Well, funnily enough, because I'm just been open because they have them all in individual articles. So
yes.
We're talking about Spurs there. So the journals have Spurs finishing third.
I knew I was right.
They have, I'm just going to go in fucking preview order because I'm trawling through this. They have Wolves finishing 13th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
See, the funny thing is, I was going to put Wolves a bit lower. The only reason I have Man U above Wolves, Palace, and Brighton is only because I think Man U have just got more goals in the team. I just don't see, but Wolves, Palace, and Brighton, I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. I really don't.
They will games amongst themselves. They won't like take scalps as well. Yeah, I know what you mean.
They have West Ham finishing 8th.
8th, okay, right.
Hang on, because I accidentally closed that one.
Old man shouts at screen.
Yes. They've not Forest finishing 15th.
Okay. That is actually more optimistic than we are about them.
Oh yeah, there's a few of them that they're quite optimistic about. They've Southampton finishing 17th.
Okay. We all still like Southampton in this podcast because we've all hoped they're well ahead of the relegation scrap. So that's something.
They're good eggs. They're good eggs. We like them.
Must be the Gavin Bazunu effect. We want them to do well.
Must be, absolutely. They have Newcastle finishing 7th.
That is very optimistic, in my opinion.
That's what I have them.
I know, but as things stand, I think like to have them to peg them better than West Ham at the minute, I think is a bit interesting.
They've Man United finishing 6th.
Mm-hmm.
They've City winning it.
Yeah, seems fair.
So they obviously have Liverpool in 2nd.
Mm.
I was about to say, you were chatting away there about Leicester City, and going that Burkbot was the most optimistic. You were wrong there. They have Leicester in 9th.
Oof.
Of course they do.
Now I have no idea why, because I'm not going to bring myself to actually read the.
Like it that Christie revenge tour from Vardy.
That's it, yeah.
They have Leeds going down in 18th.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
Fulham going down in 19th.
Yeah.
They have Palace in 11th. Chelsea in 4th.
So now that means Arsenal 5th then.
I think so, yeah. They have Brighton in 12th.
All right, then, and that leaves Villa then to finish 10th. Okay. So that's what the journals think. They think Arsenal are going to come up short again. They think Man United are going to stay bored, pretty much put where they are in 6th. Not too far away, I suppose. We have a few hot takes in there. This one in particular comes to mind.
Oh yeah, just highlight the hot takes there. Bold the hot takes there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm generating the hot takes like they're hot takes themselves. So there's one. There's Homer. There's Homer.
Just like a fucking rifleman in a bell tower with that bold key there.
Yes. I think I'm going to put West Ham ahead of Chelsea and United as a hot take. I think that's a good one. I like that one myself. So there you go. I hope you all disagree in the comments because I have absolutely no doubt that you will. Show your bipartisan colours. Tell us that we're wrong. We love being told that we're wrong about football. Because we're always wrong about football.
We never do a look back at the end of the season just to know how badly we did.
Oh, we shouldn't. That'd be terrible.
We always chat about it, and then we're like, "Well, I looked at my table last night, and I really don't want to talk about that person."
I don't recall these events.
I don't recall these events. Yeah.